Okay, so I'm recording. I'm only going to record this one session though. That's just in case there's somebody here who isn't here or whatever. Is there anybody in this lab class who's not in my lecture? That's good. Yippee! All right, good. That means you don't have to do the exemplar and everything because I've already got it from you. All right, it's good. So let's see how this is going to work. So as far as attendance goes, I'm glad you're here today because if you're here, you're already satisfying the attendance, the first 2-week attendance, which is great. The other thing that I've said here is that, I don't know if it's here. Here we go. So labs will be conducted at a set time each week at 2 p.m. on Wednesdays. You actually don't have to come. You know, you can, if you want to, not attend. That's up to you. However, there are going to be times when you're going to have something submitted before the lab time, whether you're going to turn up to the lab or not. So that means a procedure, for example, in your lab book, will have to be submitted. And that means that you'll have to, if you know you're not going to be in lab that day, the following day, that's fine. Just go ahead and submit the lab book. As long as you submit it before 2 p.m. on Wednesday, you're all set. But if you try and submit it later than that, well, you've missed out. You won't get the points for that. All right, so what have we got here? Lab book. You'll need a spiral, one subject notebook, or composition type notebook for this class. I think you all know what one of those looks like. I don't think I have one. Oh, no, maybe I have one. I don't know. I'll see if I have one. Sorry. I like these. These are my favorites. The reason I like those is because they always stay open. Makes it much easier to take pictures of them. So you can use a standard composition book if you like, but I don't like them. I've never liked them. All right. So you'll need that. Now, for each experiment, you're going to have title and date, purpose, and a procedure. And that's just for wet labs. We don't do anything else. We don't do anything for the dry labs. You won't be doing anything in your lab book for the dry labs. And you might be wondering, what's a wet lab? What's a dry lab? Well, I have it down here as to what's a dry lab and what's a wet lab. Now, a wet lab would be something where you'd actually do an experiment, but you know, we're not doing that. But still, I still classify them as dry and wet. Does anybody have any questions about what I mean by dry lab and wet lab, or how to distinguish between the two?
In terms of writing lab reports for the wet labs and dry labs, and since
no, don't worry about dry labs. You won't be doing a lab report per se for that.
Okay, all right.
So next week's lab, for example, is the molecular models lab.
The calibration of a thermometer, or the one before that?
No, the one before that, models, dry lab. This one here, organic molecules, I think it's called.
Yes. Okay, I see it.
Yeah, that's the one we're doing next week, Philip. That's a dry lab.
Okay, so this is one that we do not have to write a lab report about.
That's correct.
But the wet labs that we do have to.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, all right.
Yep, that's right. Now, for those wet labs, you'll need a procedure, and the procedure has to be detailed enough that you could have done the procedure in the lab without the lab manual. That's the standard I want you to use. I do have an example of a procedure down here. That's my chicken scratch, actually. All right. says it's Joe Blogs, but it's really me. All right. So yeah, and then you've got the results. Now the results. The thing is, this is for the melting points lab. This is the first wet lab you do. And where's the results? The results are here. You see all this stuff here: melting point naphthalene, melting point benzophenone, melting point unknown. All of that you write in beforehand, but these are the actual results. These are the actual results here, the ones that I put in the square. And those you would write in during the lab period. So I want you to treat this just like you would a regular lab. That's the point. So what needs to actually be submitted here? Well, for the first part, where you have to put in the procedure, you would do this first page, and the results, but without this stuff filled in. So you would add that during the lab. Is everybody clear on this?
Yeah, so this is going to be due before the lab period.
That's correct.
This is what is due. Yeah. Okay.
That's right. Because this is what regular students would do in regular labs. They'd had their procedure written up before they went in.
Yeah, so like the pre-lab write-up, basically.
Yeah, that's right.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And that does have points associated with it, so you could be careful with that. Okay. What else have we got? And then we've got the conclusion, and those are handwritten and uploaded to my courses. So everything including a signature, needs to be written in pen. Right? This is for the. I don't care if you cross things out or whatever, but do it neatly enough so I can read it. But don't worry if you have to cross stuff out if you're doing it in pen. I have reasons for wanting it done in pen. It's mostly about academic honesty, so it can't be shared later. That's the main thing. So you'll notice that I've done a conclusion here for this lab, and you'll see that I've written on it, this is the work of Joe Blogs, fall 2020, and then I've signed across it as well. And why do I do that? It's so that later on, you wouldn't, but maybe somebody might decide to give this lab book to somebody else for the next semester and say, well, look, I've already done this. Why should you have to do it too? Well, that's not the logic I'd take. I'd say that anybody taking this course after me needs to go through as much pain as I did. That's how I would say it. But some people are kinder than that, or stupider. I'm not sure which. Does anybody have any questions?
So for the thing that's due before the lab class, it's just the title, date, procedure, and purpose, and then everything after that is going to be due at the end of the lab period, like later that night.
No, a week later. A week later for the labs.
A week later. Okay.
Yeah. The conclusion, you have a week to do that, right? You'll have a week to do the conclusion. But what's due before the lab will be purpose, procedure, and the results here without this stuff filled in.
Gotcha. And I think I read previously in the syllabus that some of the results you will be giving us.
That's correct.
Are we going to be would you like us to put that in before the lab or after, or does it not matter to you?
Well, my preference would be for this not to be filled in before you submit it before the lab.
Gotcha.
Right? Because theoretically, you'll be getting these results. You'd be getting these results in the lab. But if you do have it filled in, that's okay. That's all right. I mean, I'm not going to cry about it. I'm just saying I'd prefer if it wasn't.
So for the wet labs, you want so the purpose and the procedures, it will be due before 11:59.
No, before 2 p.m. Before 2 p.m. Before time of the lab.
Okay, and that's the wet lab of the following week before we start the next lab, like just back in general chemistry 2 and 1 and everything.
The conclusion would be due before the 11:59 p.m. before the next lab.
Okay, and the procedures and the purpose will be due at the end of class, or just
at the beginning of the no, before the lab starts.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So here, look, here it is. Here it is. Here, I'll read it out to you. Conclusions will be handwritten. Okay. Blah blah. Okay. Lab reports for completed labs are due 11:59 p.m. of the evening before the lab that is 1 week from completion of that lab. Okay. So melting points we're doing next. Well, the week after next. It's going to be 2 weeks from today. The melting point's conclusion will not be due until 11:59 p.m. of the following Tuesday, after that melting point lab. So if you have a 2 p.m. lab on Wednesday, that means the lab report will be due at 11:59 p.m. midnight of a Tuesday night before the next lab. But that's the conclusion. Now the procedure. This is due before the lab begins. So
Just like you would pre-write everything before you go to the lab, the
Yes.
real lab,
Yes, that's
you would
right.
do the same and then submit it. And then the lab begins, he gives
Yep.
you results and you write everything down and then submit. You have a week to complete the results and conclusions.
That's exactly right, Victoria. That's exactly right. So Philip, is that okay? I think he's disappeared. All right. Does anybody have any questions about that? It's not meant to be confusing. It's just more confusing because we're not in an actual lab. You know, it's so you don't have that whole actually coming to lab business to actually do. So I try and make it like you sort of do have something to do before lab.
So tonight it says that by Wednesday we have the one due before. Okay, gotcha. Sorry, I'm just looking at the course schedule as well, trying to like make sure I'm understanding everything.
Yeah. So the melting point lab is on August 31st, right? The conclusion, the procedure will be due just before that lab.
Yep, the 26th at 2.
No, it would be.
I was just looking. It says structure of organic molecules Dropbox ends August 26th at 4:40 p.m.
Yeah, that's the dry lab. I'm talking about the wet labs here.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So the wet labs are the only ones that need procedures, and the first one will be due the week of August 31st, which I think is going to be September 2nd.
Yeah, September 2nd at 2.
Right. And then the lab itself will be due on the conclusions are due September 6th at 11:59 p.m. So I want everybody.
Okay.
I want
Because
everybody.
it says in here, lab report of melting point ends September 8th at 11:59.
September 8th.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
That would be a week.
It'll be a week. Yeah, it's a week.
Okay.
Because this is week off, remember? No, it's fine. It's all good.
Okay. Just making sure. I don't want to turn something in late.
I know. I just want everybody to be clear about the distinction between the procedure and the conclusion. That's all. Does anybody have any questions?
Not about due dates, but I noticed in your example conclusion, it was a page and a half, but there's nothing in here about what you want us to include in terms of like content. I mean, you have what voice you want it in.
I know.
Okay.
Don't panic, Rebecca.
I'm not panicked, just wanted to know if you had something more specific.
Haven't got
Somewhere you were going. Okay.
I haven't got it yet.
Okay.
Yeah, you know me better than that. You know I wouldn't just send you out with
I
nothing.
was thinking the information looked a little scant.
Yes. All right.
Okay. I'll wait patiently.
Yes. Wait patiently. You'll see what comes up. All right. So next week we're doing the structure of organic molecules lab. That's this one here. Now I'm going to have a really weird request for you. See, this one is a dry lab. So there's no procedure for it, right? This is the one you're doing next week. Now you'll find in your lab manual, where's the lab manual? The lab manual is here somewhere. Here we go. Organic 1 lab manual. This is the lab manual. So I don't know if you can get this. Well, you're going to have to print it out. I'm sorry. There's no real choice here. You're going to have to print it out. Who doesn't have a printer? All right, well, that's good. All right, but if you didn't have a printer, then I'd recommend you take it somewhere like Kinko's or whatever and get it printed out, the PDF file. All right, so what you'll be doing is you'll actually be filling it out. This is next week. You'll be filling it out from here. And you'll be putting the answers in here. And the answers are all going to be line structures, right? I'm just telling you this beforehand, just in case anybody wants to do it before the lab. This will be due by 4:40, I think, 5 p.m. or something like that on the next lab. So it'll be 5 p.m. next Wednesday.
I have a question real quick.
Yeah.
Where it says 2,2-dimethylbutane, I think it was, we're going to learn what the 2,2 means in that name, right?
Actually,
or in the lecture?
Actually, maybe not in the lecture straight away, but let me show you something here. Whoops. Sorry about that. I've got this bloody chat box. It's going to be the death of me. I know it is. All right. I have to have it up, though, just in case somebody doesn't have their microphone goes out or whatever. All right.
Isn't that the carbon that the branch is on?
It is, but let me show you something here. I've got this video. And actually, I did a really good job on this video because it's got it all sort of. I actually make the structures, you see, and then you draw them. See that? It's all in the same order and everything, so you can just follow along and you stop and everything. All right, so you can see what I'm doing there is I'm explaining it as I go in the video. All right, you all clear on that?
I have a question for this as well.
Yes, Emily.
When we write it in our lab notebook or our lab books, do we just write the the line structure, or do we have to write the question as well?
No. I was actually hoping you'd do it on the actual sheet. Okay. Right? What I mean by that, let me find it. Hang on. I've got to go back to where I was here. No, I didn't want that. Sorry. I've already had it here in the lab manual. Stick that down there. There we go. All right, let's go back to the lab manual. So Emily, to answer your question, I just want you to do it, to print this out and do it directly on here. Okay. You see these spaces here? That's where you put the structures. Yeah. All right. Now I'm going to ask a favor of you. I'm telling you this week, but I'm going to let you know for next week as well. You know what this is? Right? It's a fork. Okay? It's a fork. Now it's plastic. You don't have to use a plastic one. This is going to sound really weird, but what I want you to do is before you hand this in, I want you to lay a fork across every page that you take a picture of. Now, you think I've lost my mind, don't you? You think I've lost my mind?
I'm certain of it.
Can anybody guess why I might want to have you do that?
Probably for authenticity.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, but what it means is that, you know, the thing is you're going to take pictures of this. Those pictures are forever, and those pictures can be transferred to anybody. And we all have different forks too. Well, you'll all have different forks as well. That's exactly right. That's a bonus. But, you know, the thing is it won't always be a fork, will it? For you guys, it'll be a fork. Does anybody not have access to a fork? I'll ask that now. Just make sure everybody's got access to a fork. Okay, good. Right, but I'm just telling you, I'm giving you fair warning. If in case, because the thing is, if you wanted to, you could do this over the week, and not even attend lab. That's fine. I don't care, as long as I get that report by the end of the lab. I'll be happy as Larry. So when is it due? Well, let's take a look. So this is next week's lab we're talking about here, folks.
Dr. Musgrave, I have a question.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I know you wanted to do on the actual lab paper. Could we post those pages into our lab notebook, just like keep it together, or no?
Oh, sure, if you want to. Yeah.
Okay.
As long as you abide by the fork requirement.
Okay.
All right. Philip, are you all right? Philip. Okay. You all right, Philip? Philip, you're not. I'm not hearing you, buddy. No, I'm not hearing you. I don't know why. I'm not hearing you. All right. So I'll just continue on. Maybe Philip, I'll talk to you later.
He typed something in the chat.
Oh, he did. Okay, let's see. I kicked off. That's okay. Thank you. That's all right. I figured you were. I figured you just hadn't left for kicks. Your own reasons. All right. So, yeah, that's what we're doing. You can see what I want you to do. Across each page, this is the work of you, your name, fall 2020, and then put your signature across it. And in addition to that, I'm going to ask you to put a fork on there as well. But I'm not going to put that here in the description. I want you to remember to do that. All right, maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll put it in. All right. Lay a fork across each page. And I'm going to change that next time for something else. Before you take the picture. Okay.
Are we going to be the fork class, or are you gonna change the eating utensil each lab?
Oh no, it'll be a fork the whole time if I'm going to require one, but it'll only be for the dry labs. I'll require the fork, Francisco. Okay, just the dry labs, not the wet labs. So this is a dry lab, and then there's some dry labs that come at the end. Okay, so lay a fork across each page. Craziness. Okay, so you can do that. Now, that is going to be due, as you can see, it says 4:40 p.m. Yeah, or ends August 26th at 4:40 p.m. That's when this is due. So that's the end of the lab on Wednesday. Anybody have any questions?
Wait, so that's the entire write-up, including results and everything?
No, well, it's just the entire write-up of the. Well, it's not really it's not. All it is just a dry lab. You just have to fill in the blanks. There's no results or anything to be written up. And
we don't have to write a conclusion or anything?
No. Not for a dry lab.
Okay.
All right. The wet labs, but they only do that for wet labs. So is everybody clear about what they'll be doing next week?
Yes.
Okay. If you have any questions, feel free. I mean, that's what the whole point of this is. I want to make sure everybody understands what they're doing.
So other than like the lab manual and a spiral notebook or a composition notebook, do we need to buy anything for this class?
No.
Thank you.
No, you don't. Even this organic molecules video where I'm actually got structure, I'm actually doing them. You can just look at them on the screen. You don't even need your own organic models. You don't need your own model set or anything. If you want to have a model set, have at it. But no, you don't have to have one. Now, all I want is for you to print out the lab manual one way or another, and I want you to have a spiral notebook. And those things, I know these things, I know for a fact they can run as little as 20 cents each at times. So, you know, you can't come back at me and say, oh, Dr. Musgrave, it's too expensive. No.
Dr. Musgrave, did you already mention if we need to show up for the Zoom 2 p.m. on that day then, if it's dry lab or?
No, you don't have to be here at all.
We don't have to do it. Okay, okay.
But
as long as we submit it.
You submit it, yeah. You submit it before 4:40 on that day. I don't care.
But there's no actual Zoom class.
Well, I'll be here.
Oh, okay.
I'll be here. Look, I'll be here at 2 p.m., right? It's just a question of whether you will be or not.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And if you don't want to be here, that's fine.
Cool.
All right? I mean that sincerely, okay? I do mean that very sincerely.
I believe.
Is everybody clear on this? I'm only telling you this now, so if you wanted to, you could do it before the lab and submit it. I'll grade it and everything, you know? I will. You can submit it whenever you want. You could submit it tonight if you wanted. I'll grade it. Then you wouldn't have to turn up on Wednesday. But if you want to turn up on Wednesday, that's fine. I'll be here in front of Zoom. Then I'll be available to answer any questions you've got.
I have a quick question regarding the line structures for the lab.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want them like 3D or just like basic line structures?
Basic line structures.
Okay.
Basic line structures, yeah. Like we've been doing in class.
Okay.
Okay, so we're writing, I'm so sorry. So we're doing the purpose, no procedure, our name, the title of the lab, and then we're pasting or just printing off the actual paper lab and just filling in everything.
Actually, Sarah, it's even less complicated than that. You can just print out the lab and just do it on the paper. That's it.
Okay.
That's all I'm after.
Okay. I got you.
That's all I'm interested in.
Thank you.
Just make sure you follow these directions when you submit it. Right, then somebody said that they wanted to tape it into their lab book. That's fine. That's all right. You can do that too if you want. You don't have to. All right, any other questions?
Dr. Musgrave, so I was looking through the syllabus and I didn't see anywhere where it said about a lab practical.
There isn't
Are we not
one.
having one?
No.
Oh, okay.
Do you want one, Courtney?
I actually do not.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
All right. Because I'll put one in if you want.
I'm good, I think.
Okay.
I think we're all good. No. Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that would be a no. Thank you.
These are hard times as it is.
It seems like it's unanimous. Yeah, nobody wants a lab practical. Actually, in truth, I don't want one either. But there we go. All right. Anybody have any other questions about next week's lab? Don't worry. At 2 p.m., I'll explain this all again next week. Okay. But I just wanted to give you the flexibility to get it done, you know, this week if you wanted to. Yeah.
Musgrave.
Yeah.
If we do it early but decide to come to lab, could you help us, like, if we were struggling with
Oh,
finding
absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I will be here for you at 2 p.m. on that day.
Thank you so much.
I will be here. All right. I'm not asking you to do it on your own, but see, some people might want to. I can't. I don't know.
Rebecca here put something on the chat box.
Sorry. I moved this chat box too far here. Here we go.
Printing out tables and pasting them on the lab notebook. That's how you like it.
Well, no, you won't have to for this lab.
No, not for this one. For wet labs, because for dry labs we don't have to write it at all. We just go straight from the lab manual.
Someone was asking about printing the lab manual, and I mentioned in the chat that if there are tables or things that can just be
there won't be any
pasted, but this is a different type of chemistry.
Yeah, there won't be any.
If there's something that has a lot of writing, we can paste it into our lab notebook.
Well, there won't be any instance of that.
Okay.
Okay, so no, the answer is no. You wouldn't paste anything in from the lab manual into into the lab notebook. All right, any other questions?
I will say
Okay.
though, there were times like I just flipped back to one of the labs and there would be like a picture of how to set something up.
Oh, okay. Well,
and so sometimes I would put it into my lab notebook just to have a visual of what I was doing.
I suppose
that not?
Okay, a picture is fine. If you want to cut out the picture, that's all right, Rebecca. But you know, that's cool. That's all right. But but I really do want a description as you would have done it in the lab if you were doing it in the lab.
Okay.
All right. And that doesn't mean just writing out the procedure word for word, because you wouldn't do that. Right? You'd look through the procedure, you say, well, what steps would I do? And then you write out the steps. That's what I'm asking you to do. If you, as for an example for that, you can look at my procedure that I did for the melting point, which is at the end of the syllabus here. So I do have an example of an example of a procedure here. Okay. So you'll notice that it's not that long. It's about a page overall, the procedure. Whereas the whole melting point lab procedure itself is a lot more than that. Okay. But I'm going to look at your procedure and I'm going to ask the question, could you have followed that procedure and done the actual lab? Is that clear? Okay. Does anybody have any other questions?
So you want us to sign our name on the book, like how it is in the photo, or?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
That's right. I know it's going to cover the work, but that's okay with me. I can still read through it.
In the chat, there is something about extra points for submitting labs early. Could you elaborate on that?
Yes, yes. If they're submitted 3 days, within 3 days of actually doing the lab, then you can get 5 extra points. This is on wet labs.
Thank you.
Yeah, just wet labs, right? Not dry labs, just wet labs. And what we're talking about there is the conclusion. Right, so you hand in the conclusion within 3 days of completing the lab, you'll get 5 extra points. The reason I do that is so that I don't have a whole bunch to grade on one day. They tend to trickle in a bit over a greater period of time. And besides, if you put them in early, there's a much greater chance they'll be graded quickly too, because I won't have a whole bunch in front of me to grade. But yes, that's true. Did I miss anything else in chat here? Let me see. Let me go through this. I'll make sure. Would you repeat what I said? Well, I will. I'll talk to you at the end of lab, Philip. Is it required to print out the entire lab manual, or just the organic molecule lab? I'd say any dry lab, Cindy, would be my answer to that. What you do? Follow these directions. You print it out. Okay. Okay. Lab final. Do you have 3 days early? Yeah, 3 days. Yep, there we go. So within 3 days. Okay. Anybody have any questions so far? We're not done yet. Rebecca, I still haven't got your question yet, but I will. Okay. All right, let's go take a look at the melting point lab, and I'll show you what you'll be doing in there. So you've got the procedure and results for melting point lab. That's what's going to be due prior to the lab. You see, look at that, September 2nd, 2 p.m. Right, that's when that's going to be due. That's the procedure and results section. That's a Dropbox. That's what you'll take pictures. Let's see. You know, I really should upload as a single file. It does say that either in docx or PDF format. Yeah, that's good. All right, so then the lab report. So Rebecca, I'm going to answer your question now. So if you go into the lab report, this is what you'll see. So there'll be a bit of a place where you can put some results and things like that. And then look here, we've got a rubric. That's for the conclusion right there. That's the rubric. That tells you the requirements. This tells you what I'm looking for. You'll also notice what we're looking for in the conclusion. This is also in the lab manual. These are the actual questions that I want noted, that I want answered in the conclusion right here. Now you'll notice that the conclusion is being answered in paragraph form without question numbers, and I want you to make the paragraphs sort of run on from each other. I don't want them just to be, in this case, there's 4 questions. So what I have seen people do, obviously, is just do 4 separate paragraphs that answer those questions, and there's nothing that ties them together. The whole point is you're discussing the lab, and these questions are sort of like guiding questions, if you will. For the actual, see, you've got all these different criteria here, and this is what I base my grade on. All right, does anybody have any questions about the lab report requirements? Anything at all? So for an example of that, you can again go back to the syllabus. And you can see that I've actually done a conclusion for this lab. There we go. And it's a decent conclusion. It pretty much does what's required. If you were to do a similar conclusion, obviously it wouldn't be the same because the results are going to be a little different. Then, I think you'd be in good shape.
So we don't even have to put the results or anything like that in our lab notebooks because it's all in a quiz format in my courses.
Well, I still want you to put it in your lab notebook as well.
Okay, so you want us to copy it in too.
Yeah,
okay, gotcha.
Right. Yeah. Yep. So I do want these results filled out eventually, but not initially, right? You add it during the lab. And then, just like you would in the regular lab, you get results as you went.
Now, is it okay if we work ahead?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the other thing I was going to say is, if you want to do all these labs next week, I'd be fine with that and submit them. Go for it.
Okay, and if we have a question about, so say next week, say we worked 2 weeks ahead, can we still ask you questions about
sure.
whatever lab we're on?
Yes, absolutely, Sierra. Absolutely. But,
perfect, thank you.
Just understand, I will be here 2 p.m. every lab day. I will. I'll be here.
Thank you very much.
I'll be here, but you don't have to be, right? I want everybody to be clear on that. I'll be here, but you don't have to be here.
That's because the primary source of our information is going to be the videos and working through the lab manual. Is that correct?
Yeah, but I'll be here to help, obviously.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I don't want you to think you're alone doing this. I'm not just sort of sending you off into the wild.
Okay.
So you're basically in this Zoom going to be answering our questions and all that kind of stuff, but the actual labs are going to be in those films that you posted.
That's correct. But I will also, at the beginning of the lab period, on a wet lab, I'll be pointing out, important points and also going through calculations as well to help out.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, okay. Well, let me put it another way. I think you know what I'm going to say here. I am going to be doing that stuff during the lab, but I'm not going to be really fond of people not turning up to lab and then asking me stuff I covered already in lab. That's going to annoy me. That is going to annoy me. I might. Did I say I was going to record these or not? I can't remember if I did.
You said only this one you would record.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to stick with that because that's the thing. Yeah, I'm only going to record this lab. That's it. I'm not going to record any of the other ones. Look, if you want to be here, that's fine. If you don't want to be here, that's fine. But you're on your own if you don't want to be here. That's the way I put it. But if you're asking questions ahead of the lab, that's fine. But anything after the lab, I'm going to be pretty cagey about it, especially if I've covered it in the lab already. Is everybody clear on that?
Yep.
Okay, good. I'd still like you to come, but if you've already done the work and everything, you shouldn't be here. There's no point, especially if you're happy with everything that you've already done. All right, let's take a look. Let's take a look at the first wet lab here. You can see what you got. We've got the video. There's the video, right? That goes through the actual lab itself, and then you've got the procedure and results. We talked about that in the lab report. All right, let's talk about the actual data. The data is in this file here called student lab data, funnily enough. There we go. See, it's all there. It's all there. Yay. I wouldn't print this out. I wouldn't. I would just look at it off the screen. You can print it out if you want, but I don't know. These pictures. Actually, you know what? I'll tell you this. For this crystallization lab, I recommend downloading the file at least. They're not coming up so well in here, but when you download it to a Word file, you see the pictures better. But that's the only one, the crystallization one. All the other ones are just text, so it should be okay. All right, so that's where your data is. Anybody have any questions about that?
I have a question regarding the lab report. So I was looking at the melting point one, and it says there's 5 attempts. How does that work?
Oh, okay. Actually, the 5 attempts, it's the first wet lab, so I'm thinking there might be some technical issues. So that's the only reason I've got 5 attempts.
Okay.
I only grade 1. I only grade the first attempt. That's it. The first good attempt, anyway. The first one that's been uploaded properly.
All right.
So as far as that goes, there are directions for doing this. Now, funnily enough, let's go back here. Let me go back to the melting point lab. As you can see, only the first attempt is graded. Extra attempts are provided only in case of some sort of technical difficulty. So that's what I've got there, Courtney. Now going back to this lab report here. So I want you to be super clear about what I'm talking about here. The conclusion doesn't get typed in here. It actually gets uploaded as a picture. So, you're handwriting it, right? And that's what I've got here. Your conclusion needs to be handwritten in pen, in paragraph form, written in the third person, right? That's what I mean. And then it gets uploaded into here. And there's a specific procedure for doing that. However, that procedure is going to change during the course of the semester because there's going to be an easier, the system's being upgraded. My courses is being upgraded. It's going to allow for the easier upload of files. So for now, I'm going to ask you to follow the procedure I've got here. Where is it? Here we go. Video tutorial, how to upload a scanned picture into your lab report in D2L. That's the procedure you'll be following in order to do that. But that procedure is going to change. It's going to get much easier come later in the month, actually. But it hasn't happened yet. All right. And some people might ask, can you type it in? No, I don't want you to type it in. I want it to be handwritten. And again, it's because I want it to be authentic.
With the fork in the middle.
Well, actually, for the wet labs, no, you don't really need the fork. It's just for the dry labs I want the fork.
Okay.
Maybe for the wet labs I'll have a spoon because they're wet. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. That was a
See,
joke.
he actually wants you to put a plate on there.
No, I don't want to put a plate. I'm just kidding. All right. Does anybody have any other questions? Let's take a look at the gradebook. I want you to see this. I'm going to show you as a student what it looks like. All right, so there you go. So it's all set up here. And you see all your grades will be here. These are your lab book grades down here. And that's it. You know, it's not really difficult. I think it says that you drop one. I drop one of the labs too. So that makes it easy too. So one of these labs gets dropped to the lowest one. The last day worksheet is included as a lab. So if you do all of these properly and you're happy with the grade at the end, you don't have to do the last one.
So I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Since we're doing kind of our labs online, will this affect us when we take organic chemistry too?
Will it affect? I don't know. That's a good question. Who knows? We might be doing the same thing for organic chemistry too. I don't know.
Oh, hopefully not.
Yeah. Look, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But what I'm saying, well, it won't affect you. Well, you won't have the skills. You know, you won't have those hands-on skills. It's kind of annoying, but there's not much I can do about that.
Yeah. So like, if we're with you for organic chemistry too, will you kind of like, you know, and we are actually like sitting in person, will you kind of like help us out through that for future?
Yeah, I think it'll be fine. You know, the thing is, if you've watched the labs, at least you've seen something. But, you know, it's not the same as actually doing it, is it?
Yeah, I did some of the labs because I took it in the previous semester and I had to drop out of it because I couldn't do it online the way that they had it set up.
All right. Well, hopefully you'll be able to handle this one. I mean, the way I've got it set up.
Yeah, this one's set up like more organized. It's just, yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I know it's a little bit complicated because I want the procedure, then you have the conclusion and all that. But, you know, once you get into the swing of it and the flow of it, I don't think it'll be too bad. All right. I want to make sure there's nothing else in the chat box. Here we go. What about Imager? Well, that's what we're using, Philip. You know, that's what the procedure goes through, using how to use Imager to upload your pictures. But pretty soon you won't have to use Imager at all, Philip. All right. Anybody got any questions? Anything else about the course here? I'm just going to do a quick check through the syllabus, make sure I got everything here. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Grade 1 will be dropped. Talked about that. There's your grades there. Same deal. All right. That's all pretty much there. So yeah, there's a November 9th. So that's November 11th is a Wednesday. That you're gonna have to. I'm going to be talking about 2 labs here on November 2nd, the bromination wet lab and this dry lab, which I'll go through on that day as well. But because that's a holiday, you won't be able to do it that day. But that will be due November 12th, which is the Thursday because of the holiday. I'm not going to make anything due on Veterans Day. It'll be the day after. All right, I'll talk more about that though then when we get closer to it. All right, any other questions? Anything else about the lab? Anything at all? All right then, if anybody has any questions, they can hang around. Philip, I'll talk to you if you'd like. But anybody else who wants to hang around, they're more than welcome to. Otherwise, I'll see you all next Monday, or yeah, hopefully.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye, Musgrave.
Hey, Dr. Musgrave, I have a quick question. I know, like, you're saying that, like, the Zoom meetings aren't mandatory. So, like, hypothetically, like, if I had work or something, like, I could come in for, like, a little bit and leave. Like, that's not an issue, right?
Not an issue.
I figured. And also, this is, like, way ahead, but are you teaching Orgo 2 next semester?
I am. Same bat time, same bat channel. Yes.
Perfect. All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
All right. Anybody else have any questions aside from Philip?
Musgrave, so it's not related to like chem. I just have a quick question. Did you used to teach like any other classes, like physics or anything like that?
No.
No, really?
Yeah.
Okay. This is like hard, and I don't even know what I'm gonna do. It's so hard to figure out. Like we had one day, and it just like blew my mind.
Oh gosh. Oh, I'm sorry, Courtney.
Oh, it's okay.
All right. Anybody got any other questions aside from Philip?
No, no questions. Thank you.
Okay, Philip, what questions do you have? Oh, actually, your mic isn't working. No, still not working, Philip. You might have to type it in. Yeah, you. Oh, yeah, you can call me. Absolutely, yeah. You got my cell phone numbers. Well, it's in the other lab, but it's 265-2050, I think. I believe. It's whatever's in the syllabus on the class. All right. Everybody else, I'll see you all later. Angela, you good? Brittany? All right. Philip? I'm doing all right. Something's up with your microphone. I'm going to put the phone down just for a second, Philip. Don't go anywhere, okay? Angela, are you still there? No, she's gone. All right.